Hey, it's cannon fodder on the ice almost. So we do get around, unlike the Blue Jackets tonight, who seem to be stapled to the ice or frozen into it. They didn't move at all. It was what was the final score? It was like 15-1.
4-1.
4-1. 4-1. The team didn't show up. You knew it right from the first power play they had, where they could barely get it in the zone or even set up, and lethargic, strangely absent. Called a goose egg all around the locker room. We sucked. Tortorella said twice. Can we say that on this podcast, Rick?
Why not?
Steve, you said no.
Yes.
No, it was a very strange night in Nationwide Arena. Fans here expecting or hoping that the Jackets could take a 3-1 lead in the series. Instead, series tied 2-2 after a desultory performance and a 4-1 loss in Game 4. George, your thoughts first. What the heck happened out there? Nobody knows.
I was extremely surprised they came out as flat as they were. I mean, this was a big game. Everybody was talking about how big this game was. This Blue Jackets team really seemed to want to go to Washington 3-1, but Washington seemed to not want to go back down 3-1 much more. I thought Washington played a fast game. They had Columbus on their heels from the beginning. I thought after being down just 1-0 going into the second, we were going to see a different Columbus team in the second period, and we didn't.
Right.
I thought Washington carried the play throughout the first, maybe the last 3 minutes of the first. Columbus got into it. That was too late. And I don't think they really got going in the second until there were 5 minutes left. And again, they went down 2-0 going into the third. So when Alex Ovechkin scored early in the third, this one was basically, for all intent and purposes, this was over. Boone Jenner scored to make it 3-1, maybe give it a little bit of life, but this was just a bad game all around for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
And Steve, it's very rare to see a no-show during the playoffs. Not unprecedented by any means,
right,
but a team not show up. There's teams that have shut it down when they're down big, but to not be there from the start, very strange. Did you expect it?
I mean, not at all. I figured if they were to struggle, it was probably because they were fatigued from the 3 overtime games. But Nick Foligno talked about it after the game. Towards 2, they felt like this team was nervous from the outset. In fact, Tortorella said, and that's surprising, especially the position they were in, with a chance to go up 3-1. I mean, they're going to have to figure out how to put the nervousness aside, because this Game 5 on Saturday is coming up quickly. And after that game, one of the teams is going to have its back against the wall. So, they're going to have to try to settle down and relax.
Yeah, to me, the game was typified during a TV timeout. I think it was in the first period. It was in the first period. And Tortorella gathered the players around, on the ice and on the bench. They surrounded him. And he looked like he was screaming at him. And he was, and by then he was already scrambling lines, which is ridiculous at this point. But he felt compelled to do it, and he really just wanted him to just play. He saw that they were barking at the referees and chirping at the Capitals, and he's like, just shut up and play. And he really tried to put him at ease. George, it obviously didn't work. But man, they were just grasping at straws all night. The good news here tonight for Jackets fans?
The good news is the road teams are undefeated in this series, and Game 5 moves to Washington. So the teams in the white jerseys are 2-0 in this series. I think Torts had the right mindset post game, saying, listen, it may feel like it, but the Columbus Blue Jackets are not losing in this series. Yes, they've lost momentum. No doubt about that. They've lost home ice advantage, but it's still a 2-2 series. The only thing is now it's a best-of-3. The next team to win 2 wins, and 2 of those 3 games are in Washington. I don't think – and Washington played very well at home. It wasn't like Washington played poorly. Columbus was able to come back in all those games in Washington and come back and win in overtime. Maybe games they shouldn't have won. And that's one of the things. Washington, for the most part, has won this series, but it's a 2-2 series.
Right. And, Steve, this is you're known for your scoop stats, but this is one of those nights where really you just light that thing on fire. They don't mean anything.
No, in fact, Torts didn't even want to talk at all about anything in the game. He said it sucked. we sucked, we laid an egg, no reason to even break it down. Although there were a few players in the locker room that did talk about the fact they feel like they haven't tested the Capitals goalie, Braden Holtby, enough. They don't feel like they've gotten traffic in front of him enough. They don't feel like they've given him they put enough pressure on him. I think that's going to have to change Saturday. They can't produce an effort like this where, you know, they don't get that many shots on goal. They're not challenging
15 shots through 2 periods, I think.
Yeah, they really struggled there, and they're going to have to put more pressure on him. I mean, they still feel that they have the goaltending edge with Bob. They feel like, you know, they have the better goaltender. Well, for that to pan out, they're going to have to put the same kind of pressure on Holtby that the Capitals are putting on Bob.
There's a few guys that showed up, Bobrovsky among them. I thought Foligno played well. I tried to put the team on his back or at least push him forward. I thought Jones and Werenski were very good, extremely dangerous at times tonight. But their task was the same as Foligno's. Bob's task never changes. But the skaters, those 3 I just mentioned, they're just trying to get anything to get anybody going, because really nobody was. It was a very strange night. It couldn't complete a pass. We'll see now how much confidence this gives the Capitals. They didn't do anything special to virtually eliminate the Jackets' top line, which has been such a high-powered, high-scoring line for them since the trade deadline. They just played a very sound hockey game. We'll find out if the Jackets rely too much on that first line, because they definitely at this point are going to need some more depth scoring. And we'll find out if they can put this behind them. I think they can, George. I mean, this is aberrational. You dust it off, throw it away, and it's just one game.
It is just one game, but again, Washington, the argument could be made that Washington was the better team in all 4 games. Columbus was, you know, came out of Washington up 2-0 despite being outplayed. And in Game 3, the game in which Columbus played its best game, they end up losing in overtime, in double overtime. So, yeah, they can dust this off. Absolutely, it's a best of 3. I think there's a lot of pride in that room. I think that there still is a lot of inexperience, and I think that needs to be overcome. I think we saw some nervousness, some guys playing a little bit too tightly tonight, and maybe going on the road, maybe that pressure gets lifted. As funny as that sounds, sometimes players do much better when they're on the road. It just they're you know, no family problem, you know, no family business to deal with. They're not going to the grocery store at, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get kale. So a lot less to worry about when you go on the road. Just play the game. Just go out there and play your game.
Well, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say one thing I think that's really stood out is how much Alexander Wenberg means to this team. He hasn't been in there. They haven't had the balance with the lines. Tortorella has not trusted using his 4th line. And if he's still officially listed as day-to-day, but if he's not ready for Game 5, they got to figure out a way to operate without him in the lineup and to be effective.
And we'll know more tomorrow. They practice at noon here at Nationwide Arena. So if Alexander Wenberg is not on the ice for practice tomorrow, he will not play in Game 5.
Tough break for the Jackets. He went out in Game 1 when Tom Wilson hit him high with only a 2-minute minor on that and no supplemental discipline. You know, last thought is if you look back in your NHL guide and record book, you can find all kinds of games of a huge blowout variety, actually score-wise much worse than this one, and teams coming back and bouncing right back immediately. I remember a couple of the Penguins Caps series from the early 2000s, and Ron Wilson getting blown out, or the other way, but guaranteeing they'd come back and win 6-0 the next game. And those crazy things did happen, and some of them even happened to the Capitals. We'll see. We'll see if I don't know if that'll be the case, but the point is, league history, playoff history is littered with strange stuff, and this certainly was a strange evening at the rink. George, platforms?
Well, this arena's littered with some stuff, but the guys that were cleaning it up, they showed up tonight.
They did.
They did show up. Anyway, platforms, yes, as everybody that has Twitter knows, at George Richards, at Michael Arace 1, at S. Gorten, at Dispatch Alerts. We're also on Facebook, Blue Jackets Extra with an X. And you can like that and get all kinds of fun stuff. We've got videos and pictures, and Steve draws pictures, and it's just fun for fun for everybody. It's cool. just join us.
So for Doral Chenoweth and George Richards and Steve Gorten, I'm Mike Arace. Thanks for tuning in here, and we'll talk to you probably tomorrow.